Advocates Association Bengaluru, we have with us today a young, energetic advocate, Mr. Sanjay Sethia. Mr. Sanjay, we are happy to have you with us today. Welcome to the webinar.
Hello, Vikram.
Let me now introduce our today's speaker. Mr. Sanjay Sethia is the founder of Law Square, a law firm located in Bengaluru with associate offices in New Delhi, Mumbai, and Chennai. He spearheads the practice areas dealing mainly in trademarks, real estate, and commercial laws. Handbook for Karnataka Hire Purchase Association is a recent handbook authored by Mr. Sethia. Mr. Sanjay is a frequent speaker and also writes articles. One of the recent articles was published in All India Reporter and Karnataka Law Journal titled as Legal Education Need for Streamlining in India. He is an avid reader and is trying to learn Jain philosophical literature. He is married to advocate Petal Sethia and is blessed with 2 sons. Once again, Mr. Sanjay, a warm welcome to you on behalf of Advocates Association Bengaluru.
Thank you, Mr. Vikram. Thank you for the warm welcome. Firstly, I would thank A.P. Rangnath sir, President Advocates Association Bangalore, for giving me this opportunity. I being the youngest of the lot, I think I'm fortunate enough to be associated with Rangnath sir to get this opportunity and share some knowledge which I've gained over the period of my practice as an advocate. I'll try to be concise. I'll try to be as to the point as possible. Before I begin with, I would also thank the entire team of A.P. Rangnath sir, who has been for the last so many days we have been all witnessing the kind of seminars that has been conducted in the past, one after the other without any break. The initiative that has been taken is tremendous, excellent, and it is one of its kind in the whole of the country. I can say no other association has been so proactive in taking such an seminars. The team associated with Rangnath sir, Vikram sir, maybe, or the entire office bearers team, all of them have been very kind enough and cooperative with all of us. I thank you for this opportunity, and without wasting much time, I'll now start with the topic which I'm given to talk today. The topic which I am given to talk today is about the trademarks law and the practice in the usual course. Now, when we talk about the trademarks law and the practice, we will break this session into 3 parts. First, we will understand the basics of the trademark. Then we will go into the details of how the trademark litigations and the practice happens. And then we will go to the landmark judgments, which would say what are the court's view on the trademark matters. So to begin with, of course, this is not a live session where I can question and answer. So I will have to answer by myself. If possible, you can attempt in the comment box below, that chat box, that if anybody is aware of this question, answer to this question: when was the first trademark ever registered? If anybody is able to answer, I'll quickly go to the answer then. If anybody is able to answer, try to attempt in chat box to answer when was the first trademark registered?
Praveen, please take a guess. Please assist the speaker. Please take a guess. Or our secretary sir will take a guess. Please unmute Gangadharaya sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Sanjay.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
As far as trademark registration first done, I have no actually knowledge. I know knowledge about it.
Yes, sir.
I may guess it may be in the 19th century, starting of 19th century.
Okay, I'll also give a small hint now. Your guess is almost close. It is 18th century. Any year you want to guess, sir?
If it is 18th century, clueless, Sanjay. You only a better person.
So it is 1876. 1876 was the first time when a trademark came to be registered, which is very surprising to know that even in those 18th centuries, mark used to be considered as too valuable.
Yes, yes.
So 1876. And the most interesting part is, which was that trademark which was registered in 1876 for the first time?
Is it Coca-Cola by any chance?
You are almost close by, but I will add to it. It's a beverage, but it is not a Coke.
Thumbs up, maybe.
It's
No, thumbs up was later then.
super interesting to know that the first mark ever which was registered was for an alcoholic beverage.
Oh my God. Then I'll not guess right now.
So probably we can now understand the importance of alcoholic beverages in 1876.
Which country it is, Sanjay?
It was in UK. It was in UK for the
Okay.
first time in the year 1876. Mark called BASS, BASS was the first ever mark which came to be registered in the year 1876, and the registration number is 1 of 1876. 1 of 1876 for the mark BASS, BASS, and it is not that only the word mark which has been registered. It is a logo of a triangular shape with a stylized font in a red color. So
Very nice.
that was the first ever time there was something in 1876. They came out for a alcoholic beverage, a different kind of a label and a mark, which got an idea of being protected because to stop from infringements. So from the copying, people came out with an idea of registering a mark. So this propounded in the year 1876, which is very very valuable information to be known to all of us, that in 1876 a mark was so prominent, that too for an alcoholic beverage.
So another way, it shows that it was started manipulating the things way back in the 18th century also.
So we are way far ahead now. That people are doing it at a lesser amount, I can say now.
Okay, thank you.
So what could be a trademark? What is a trademark? Any guess that what could be called as a trademark?
Mark that is used for trading.
Close by, but we will have to
To
little bit identified.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give certain examples. Okay, you see your hand sanitizer bottles now. That is very prominent today. Everybody is carrying a sanitizer bottle. So if you take a sanitizer bottle today in hand, supposing I'm just having one to show it as an example, you'll see the shape of the bottle is a mark, label of the label is a mark, the name written is a mark, the color combination is a mark. So you call anything in this, most of the items are a mark, and collectively all of them also is a mark. So mark can be a device, a brand, a heading, a label, ticket, name, signature, word, letter, numeral, shape of goods, packaging, and any combination of all of this, or any combination of colors also. At times, even a combination of color also becomes a mark. Airtel, which color comes to our mind?
Right.
Red. So color is also a mark sometimes. Apple, what comes to our mind? The phone, not the Apple, actual Apple. So that's how the marks have become prominent. So when there is a combination of certain things, Pepsi can, what is the color? Blue. McDonald's, yellow. What does immediately come to our mind when we call it McDonald's? The M logo. When we say the Coca-Cola bottle, what Coca-Cola bottle is, the different shape of the bottle that comes to our mind. The bottle can be a shape of the goods can be registered. When we call us Adidas, the pattern that can be registered. When we say if I give a more prominent example for any color, Google, what does come to our mind? There are two things in Google. One is the color combination. The other one is the word mark. So there are both the things which is covered under one single mark. It is just a five-letter word, Google, but it has a color which is also a mark, and it is also in a pattern which is also a mark, and it is a word which is also a mark. So it's a combination. It can be one or it can be a combination of all. That is how the marks are. How many of you are aware that Dairy Milk is granted protection to its color of the wrapper? How many of you are aware? Reason being, the color which is used by the Dairy Milk for their wrappers are a Pantone color shade. which is, after a mixing of too many colors, the color shade has been made out by the dairy milk. Therefore, the color of dairy milk wrapper is being protected. After this, you people can observe there will be no other chocolates which is similar to that of dairy milk wrapper. And if it is there, then there can be a case of infringement. Okay, so this is what the first thing comes is the color, the name, pattern, writing style, anything or any combination of all of this can be a trademark. Now, how do you protect a trademark? That is the most important point, right? You protect a trademark by registration. So that is the only way you protect the mark, a trademark. However, when we go a little detail in the law, the law says, sir, I just designed a label. I just came out with a mark. I tried to introduce in the market. It has just come in the market and people have started using it. And it is accepted now. Now I want to go for registration, but I can see that people have already started copying my mark. If I have to say that only the registered mark has to be protected, then what happens to the people who could not even file the application by the time they could realize that Vidyarthi Bhavan has become a famous mark? By the time Vidyarthi Bhavan realizes that it has become a famous mark for him, what does he do? Does he sit over for the people to copy his mark, wait for the registration to come? No. Therefore, what the lawmakers have done, they have given us a remedy under the law, which is called as common law remedy of passing of action. The passing of action happens for all those non-registered, unregistered marks. So there are two items now. One is a registered trademark. The other one is unregistered trademark. So the law which governs the registered trademark is the Trademarks Act for the remedy of infringement. For the unregistered mark, again, the law that governs is also the trademarks law, but the remedy available is under the common law remedy, that is passing of action. I'll repeat it again. For all the registered trademarks, the protection is infringement. For all those unregistered trademarks, the protection is passing of action. These are the primary and key differences under the trademark law. So one cannot or need not have to worry that my mark is not registered, I have not applied for it. What do I do? If I put to use, if I'm able to establish the goodwill, there are various key factors. When I take the judgments discussed on the passing of actions, I'll elaborately detail about it. One thing we have to keep in mind is, even if we are not registered, we can seek protection of our mark. That is the concept under the Trademarks Act. What are the marks that cannot be registered? We need to understand what all are not registerable, because what can be registered, everything and anything under the sun which is invented by us can be registered. But what cannot be registered is what we have to first understand. I'll take a few minutes to explain what is not registerable, so it becomes easier for us to understand what is registerable. First important point is, any mark which we are seeking protection of or seeking registration of, it should not cause any kind of confusion. If a mark is causing a confusion, then it cannot be registered. Second, it should not hurt any religious sentiments. So that is the second aspect of it. Third aspect of it is, it should not be scandalous matter or an obscene matter. 4, the prohibited names or the national emblems or the names which are of improper use, all of that also cannot be registered. Something which is devoid of any distinctive character. So this is very important for us to understand. When we are saying something devoid of distinctive character, which means a mark can be registerable only if it is distinctive. So which is not distinctive falls under not be able to be registered. So any customary language which has become a part of our daily usage, but it is not a codified or a dictionary word, even those words cannot be registered. The most important aspect is, for an Apple iPhone, is Apple anything to do with the iPhone or the telecommunication or the mobile phones? No. Therefore, we call those words as arbitrary words. So that is registerable for a product which has nothing to do with kind, quality, values, or anything. Therefore, if anything is to do with kind, quality, value, geographical origin, time of production of goods, anything related to that. So I cannot go and say, register mango for a mango fruit. I cannot go and register orange for an orange fruit. Whereas we have come across orange as a mobile phone, Apple as a mobile phone. But we cannot use the same thing for the kind or the nature of the goods itself. So those marks are also prohibited. I actually want to share a small, interesting case which we had in Delhi. We fought it from our Delhi office. There was a person in Delhi who went and registered a brand called Acai Berry. Okay. Now this is a very interesting case. Acai Berry case. Acai Berry, he got it registered. Thereafter, he started filing cases against all of the parties all across the India, stating that anybody who is using Acai Berry should stop. Now, what does one can relate with the word Acai Berry? We usually have heard of Acai TVs or berry as a fruit. Later, we got to know Acai Berry is a fruit in any foreign country. In some foreign country, it is a fruit. And the extracts of those acai berry fruit are used for medicinal preparations in India by the health supplements company. Understanding the value and importance of this fruit, what this guy in Delhi has done, he's gone and made an application in the class of medicine and the fruit for the very fruit acai berry itself as a trademark, which was not known in India. He's obtained the registration for a fruit by false and misrepresentation. And he has filed case across the India stating that I am the protected, registered proprietor of the mark. Therefore, I want to stop you from using it. Courts held the very character and the kind of quality and the nature of the goods itself has been registered by way of a trademark. Therefore, the trademark itself has to go. And it has been obtained by false and misrepresentation. So what we need to keep in mind is that anything which is to do with the quality, kind, value, or geographical origin or the time of production of the goods associated to all of this cannot be registered. So what are the marks that are registerable? It becomes easier for us to now understand that what is registerable. What is registerable? Which is something graphically be represented, or something which is used in relation to the goods and services, which can be distinguishing goods or services of one person to the other. Vodafone, Airtel, both are into mobile phone, but it distinguishes one person's goods from that of the other person's goods. Idea is totally different. Reliance is totally different. Vodafone is totally different. Airtel is totally different. But all the four of them are into the same business. So each of their mark are differentiable in terms of their overall appearance, look, name, and all the characteristics of the trademark. It does not indicate the identity of the person. So the mark which is not indicating the identity of a person is also something which can be registered. So what is the requirement for a registration of a trademark? What is the requirement? As I said, there is only one requirement. It should be unique and not infringing any existing trademarks. If we have something unique and we are not infringing any existing trademark, then certainly that is the only requirement which will fulfill the registration of a trademark. This is a brief background about how the trademark evolves and what are the trademarks are. Let me take you through a little bit in a detailed way. How does the trademark, what are all the forums that has been created for the trademark and what all happens in those forums? So we have a trademark registry for the registrations of all these trademarks. For the southern India, that is Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Pondicherry, and two union territories, Yahe and Mahe and Yanam. So seven states, 5 states and 2 union territories. For the 7 places, the one registry we have is in Chennai. The only one trademark registry we have, that is in Chennai. And any disputes that arise out of the registry's decision goes to the IPAB, that is also situated in Chennai, Intellectual Property Appellate Board. So these are the 2 authorities created for the purpose of registration, cancellation, anything to do with registration and cancellation of the trademark, or I can say the whole activity of trademark registration and associated items are all taken care in the registry that has been constituted in Chennai. Second thing is, when it comes to the unregistered, registered brands, and if there is to be a protection to be sought for, then who's the authority? When we look into the authority for these aspects, that is to protect, seeking enforcement of our right, or to protect our right, the authority before whom we go is, as per the Act, it is the district court which has the jurisdiction. I'll also elaborate here another important point. Most of you, of course, are aware, but for the benefit of other advocates also, I would want to bring it to the notice that the Delhi High Court, Calcutta High Court, Bombay High Court, Madras High Court, and Himachal Pradesh High Court, all these 5 high courts in India have their original jurisdiction in the High Court, which means the civil matters of original jurisdiction can be filed in their respective high courts and not in their district courts. Therefore, in these 5 courts, the original jurisdiction lies in the High Court, and the suit for infringement or a passing of action will lie in their respective high courts. Unlike our rest of the other parts of the country, where it goes before the district court. I am told in Delhi, of course, the limit for the civil suits, they have increased it to 1 crore of the jurisdiction for the purpose of valuation. So therefore, when a suit for infringement is filed or a passing off is filed, and if there is no damages is claimed to the tune of 1 crore, then the matter would go to the district court. Otherwise, if there is a damages of 1 crore claimed or above, it goes to the Delhi High Court. For the rest of the parts of the country, high courts, the other 4 high courts, I'm not much aware of, but the total point is that the original jurisdiction of these 5 high courts lie in the High Court. Therefore, these infringement suits and the passing of suits of these 5 high courts go directly to the High Court. Otherwise, it is at the district level. Even if we take our other districts of Karnataka, so if a matter in, of course, if there is a matter in Nelmangla, then the Nelmangla district court would have the jurisdiction. If there is any court, if there is an infringement happening in any industrial area, supposing the company is situated in an industrial area, which comes in a rural, jurisdiction, then the district court of that rural jurisdiction would have the have the authority to hear the matter. So this is another aspect of it. Apart from all this, when the suit IA infringement application, that is 39(1) and 2, or a suit is decided, then the usual course of MFA for the IA and RFA for the final judgment lies. That is as that of any other civil suit, how we follow. In the similar fashion, even for the infringement suit also, it goes on. Therefore, there is no change. The only thing which we should keep in mind is how the jurisdiction arises. Now, when we talk about the jurisdiction, one added benefit that is given under the Trademarks Act is that usually under the CPC, suit is filed wherever the defendant carries on business or resides. This is the place where suit is filed. Whereas, when we are talking about the trademarks law, only for a registered proprietor, that is for the registered trademark, one additional jurisdiction granted is wherever the plaintiff carries on business. So that is one additional jurisdiction that has been granted under the Trademarks Act for the registered proprietor, for all the unregistered marks, wherever the defendant carries on business. But only for the registered mark, it can be also in addition to defendant, it can also be at the place where the plaintiff carries on the business. Therefore, plaintiff need not go to the place of defendant's place of business and file the suit in case of infringement. He can file in his own jurisdiction. That is one added benefit that has been granted under the Trademarks Act insofar as the jurisdiction is concerned. Apart from this, rest of the CPC procedures lies for the appeals and the further challenging of any orders and the judgment. So this is the aspect, these are the two forums we have for the adjudication of trademark matters. Now, if we talk about the registration process, how it takes place, it will also benefit a lot of advocates to understand that, now the trademark practice has become online. The complete processes can be done through online portal by sitting here in Bangalore. In fact, the trademark registry has gone a step ahead and also constituted all the hearings online even before the COVID. Therefore, we can have our arguments also done through online hearings. So the procedure adopted by them, I'll just elaborate in a few, simplest way. We make an application with the name, address, class of the mark, and the name of the goods, and the classification of that goods or the services under which we seek registration. A power of attorney is attached along with an application. If the mark is not conflicting, it goes for publication for public objection. 4 months is the time granted. If there is any objection, it may come to us to say that this is the objection raised by so-and-so person. If there is no objection, the mark gets registered. This is the simplest way. If there is objection, there can be two kinds of objection which can be raised. If you make an application, the registry itself can raise an objection to say that we examined your mark. They are not registerable for the reasons as stated in the section 9, 10, 11, one of those sections, which I just pointed out to say that what marks cannot be registerable for all of these reasons. After all that reasons as well, if we are able to convince with sufficient evidences to say that my mark is unique and it has capabilities of being registered, then the trademark registry may pass an order accepting it, and it will again follow the procedure of going for the publication, public objection, and if no objection, then it gets registered. After the registry accepts it, and if there is a public objection, then we have to convince with evidences sufficiently on record to show that no, my mark is unique and it is not conflicting or infringing anybody's existing or the objected party's mark. And then the registration happens. If we are unsatisfied with the decision of the registry, then we have the Intellectual Property Appellate Board. That is also located in Chennai, which again deals with the unsatisfactory objections and the appeals that have arise out of the registry's decision. So this is the course of action that happens in the trademark registry. Time taken. If we need to understand the time taken for registering a mark, it almost takes about 6 to 8 months now. Earlier, before 2017, till the complete process of trademark became online, earlier it used to take 2 years, 3 years for one application to get registered. One application seeking trademark registration, it used to take 2 to 3 years. Now, including the time for publication, it is 6 months, which means it is at no time the mark is getting registered. That level of technology has been brought into by the trademark registry for registration of mark. It's completely online process, seamlessly it works. 3 years now that it is completely online. So that's how the trademarks are getting registered. Of course, if there are objections raised, then the time taken is not known. Without any objection, the time is 6 to 8 months. We need to understand now the most important aspect of it is what is the effect of a registered trademark or a registration of a trademark? What will happen? What is the effects of the registration? what are all the rights do we get by registering a trademark? There are 5 major benefits for a registered trademark, which I could point out to say that we can exclusively use it. The one who has registered it, he can use it exclusively. 2, he can assign the mark to someone or he can sell the mark to someone. 3, he can file a suit for injunction. 4, he can protect it from piracy or copying. And 5, he can also seek for punishment. So these are the five benefits that arise out of a registered trademark. Now to exercise these rights, we can file a suit for injunction, we can file a suit for damages, accounts of profit, cost. One added advantage, what do we get here is very important, is at the time of filing of a 39(1) application along with the suit, we can also make an application for seizure of all the infringing goods from the defendant's premises. This is the added benefit and advantage we get under the law when we are alleging that the defendant's mark is infringing or passing off as that of the plaintiff. The most important thing should be done along with that is seek seizure of those goods as well. If the goods are seized, even at the premises of the defendant through the court commissioner, then the damage that is probably caused can be plugged in. So that is one added advantage we get under the trademarks law. That is again coupled with CPC, but we can seek seizure of the goods. Then there, of course, there can be arrest, there can be penalty, then there can be disposal of those infringed goods. These are the other remedies we do get. So effect of non-registration or the rights under the non-registration is also one and the same. The same remedy you get under the non-registration also. Now, when you say how strong if a trademark is, to know what is the yardstick we use to understand or know how strong is a trademark. A trademark will be strong if it is fanciful, if it is arbitrary. They are very strong. As I said, arbitrary. Apple has got nothing to do with phone, so it is arbitrary mark. It is strong. It is fanciful, something which is very fanciful. Davidoff, Levi's, it is very fanciful. It can be anything, can be called fanciful. I'm just giving example. If it is something generic, then they may not be your strong trademark, we can say, or something which is descriptive. Some people will come out with a creative idea to say that I am selling coffee, I should name my coffee as a coffee. If you are going to name your coffee as a coffee, it is a generic term or it is a descriptive, it is suggestive in nature, therefore your mark may not be strong. I am not saying it is not capable of registered. It is not strong enough mark from people not to be copied. Brew has got nothing to do with the coffee, but what does come to our mind? Brew coffee. So that is how we should be naming it. Now, I'll just discuss the most and the important landmark judgments of the court in respect to passing off and trade infringement matters. The first judgment I would like to rely upon this to just take through is, I am just taking through those judgments which are very well known to us in terms of the brand name, and it can be easily associated. I'm not saying these are the only judgments. There are extreme number of judgments which are available, but I'm just trying to associate them with very generic names so that it easily captures our mind. So first judgment which I'm trying to rely upon is the judgment of Gulcon D versus Glucose D. Gulcon D versus Glucose D. It's a judgment of the Supreme Court. In this judgment, Gulcon D versus Glucose D judgment, Supreme Court came out with five 5 requirements for a passing of action. Why I'm taking through passing of at the first place is, of course, if you are registered, you have a certificate. To prove I am the registered proprietor, I have a right over a mark. But when it is unregistered mark, what do you have to prove? You don't have anything to prove. Therefore, Supreme Court came out with a requirement list that what all is required in a passing of action. In a passing of action, first one has to prove is misrepresentation. And that misrepresentation should have been done by a trader in the course of business. 2. Third, prospective customers or the ultimate consumer of the goods should be deceived because of that. 4th one, it is calculated, that is the infringing mark has been adopted to or calculated to injure the goodwill or the business of the other party. And 5th one, it is causing actual damage to the business and the goodwill of the claimant, that is the plaintiff in the suit. So these are the 5 first primary principle which one has to satisfy in the cases of passing off. Whereas in case of infringement, registration certificate itself speaks for itself that he is a registered proprietor of the mark. Therefore, the registration certificate takes care of. In the cases where you don't have the registration certificate, these are the 5 principles or the 5 key points or the 5 requirements under the law which needs to be proved that I am able to prima facie give these 5 facts or these requirements under the law. I am able to fulfill in cases of a passing of action. So Gulkon D versus Glucose D, passing of action, Gulkon D, Glucose D. It becomes very easy for us to associate. So I was just trying to give those judgments which are very, very common to usage. So it becomes easier for us to associate. One other judgment of, I think this is Calcutta High Court, Hawkins versus Sham. Hawkins, what does the first point comes to our mind when we talk about Hawkins? I want people to answer in the chat box. What comes to our mind when we talk about Hawkins?
It's a cooker.
It's a cooker. Very good. What else comes to our mind? Hawkins, right? The first thing comes to our mind is cooker, right? So, what is associated with that Hawkins cooker logo? Can somebody attempt to say that? White background, black font, something gets associated, right? When we talk about Hawkins. So, there is another company which adopted a mark called Sham. Hawkins versus Sham. The judgment is Hawkins versus Sham. Now, Sham, what he does is, he writes Hawkins, his name Sham in the same pattern that of Hawkins. Ditto, just like Hawkins, how it is written, he writes Sham in the similar pattern, that same white background, same font, same pattern, all that he adopts. So Calcutta High Court says, people have fading memory, imperfect recollection. I have come to Hawkins. Now you suddenly ask me what is Hawkins, I don't remember, but I remember it is associated to cooker. But something which is written like Hawkins also could be Hawkins only. I will not know exactly how many, what is the alphabet that is used, what is the font that is used. Therefore, keeping the principles of imperfect recollection, fading memory, the court said that if the name is totally different, but it is something to do with the pattern, that is the style under which the mark is written, it needs to be protected. Therefore, they injuncted the defendant from using the mark Sham. This is a very famous and celebrated case. Most of you must be aware of it. Malik Chand versus Manik Chand. How many of you are aware? Malik Chand versus Manik Chand. Yeah, sir. Yes, sir.
Gutka.
Very good. I can see the enthusiasm. Gutka case. So, what is there in this Gutka case? What did really happen between these two? Why did Manik Chand had to change his name from Manik Chand to RMD? What went wrong in this case actually? So what has happened? The court came out with a concept called prior user. They came out with a concept called prior user. Malik Chand had a very, very minimum sales. Even to this date, we don't know where he sells his gutka. Manik Chand, everybody is aware. Every gully you go today, the this small petty angry shop people, that is, we have this petty angries, right? They keep selling this Manik Chand. Now it is called as RMD, of course, after this judgment. So Madhya Pradesh, there was a manufacturer of, in the Madhya Pradesh High Court, this judgment was passed, Malik Chand Gutka. He says, I am the prior user. Manik Chand came next to me and he adopted something, a similar mark of that of mine. Court said, what is your sales volume? I am immaterial to me. What is important is who adopted first, prior adoption. So what was important? Prior adoption. So for a prior adoption, Manik Chand is the classic example to show that if you are late in the race or if you are behind in the race and still you have large market share, you cannot seek protection. The one who is before you only gets protected. So prior user gets protected under the law, trademark law. So Malik Chand versus Manik Chand. Then there is another case of Pearl versus Pearl. Pearl, Pearl versus Perle, Pearl or Perle. It actually sounds Pearl versus Pearl. Delhi High Court in this judgment, it's another interesting case. What has happened? Pearl, plaintiff, he was an unregistered subsequent user of a mark. Pearl, Perle, Pearl, he is a registered prior user of a mark. Prior registered defendant, unregistered subsequent user plaintiff. In spite of this, the plaintiff wins the case. We saw the previous judgment of Malik Chand versus Manik Chand, where Malik Chand, though he was registered or unregistered, he being a prior user, he got protected. But in the Pearl versus Pearl, the unregistered subsequent user gets protected and the registered prior user is not protected. There's a difference now. What we need to understand in this judgment is that the defendant made an application prior to the plaintiff. He used the mark, he got the mark registered, but he never used the mark. So registration, prior user is not everything. Usage is also important. You cannot simply block a mark, take a registration, sit at home and say that I will stop everybody coming behind me. No, usage is also important. You should use the mark, actual usage of the mark. So if under the law, the trademark law says, if a person does not use a registered mark for 5 long years, if a person does not use, it can be cancelled. An application seeking cancellation of that mark can be filed. So what is equally important is prior usage, uniqueness, and usage. These are all the factors are important for the trademark. It is not that only I have registration, I get protected, I'm prior user, I'm get protected. No, I should also use the mark. That is what is very important for us. Now there is one more interesting case. I'm sure if somebody from Tamil Nadu or Chennai particularly, if they are there, they'll easily associate this. This is a case of Delhi High Court, but the defendant is of Chennai. As I told you, right, why this case was in Delhi High Court is, under the trademarks law, there is an option to file a suit where the plaintiff resides because he is a registered proprietor. Therefore, a person having a bar, a dance bar at Chennai, was stopped by the Delhi High Court from using the name of the bar. The case is Zara versus Zara Tapas Bar. Zara versus Zara Tapas Bar. Zara, what comes to our mind? Zara. Zara is a clothing brand. Zara is a premium clothing brand. It's more like a designer costumes.
Yeah.
Zara. There was this same font style, the same pattern, the same way how the Zara is written. One bar and restaurant in Chennai, he opened with the name Zara. He added tapas, Zara Tapas Bar. Court said Zara as a brand is internationally known, not only nationally, it is internationally known. It is registered for 25 long years. You cannot spoil someone's reputation. You cannot spoil someone's reputation, which is built over 25 long years' time. And they injuncted the person from using the Zara Tapas Bar. We need to understand one thing here. Is Zara and Zara Tapas Bar same class of goods or services? No. I deal with soap. You deal with agarbatti. Can a agarbatti guy come and say that no, soap and agarbatti are one and the same, you should stop, you should not use the name? It cannot happen. If that is the case, everybody will have the conflict, right? But in this case, what the court found is that the goodwill earned over the 25 long years period of time was so valuable, everybody started associating Zara with clothing brand. It has become synonymous. The brand has become synonymous with the clothing. Therefore, it was supposed to be, stopped. I'll give one more very interesting case now to associate the concept of well-known marks. Airtel. How many of you are aware of Airtel? If I ask this question, I think all of you would raise your hands to say that yes, everybody is aware. But how many of you are aware there was a company which was manufacturing and selling Airtel beer?
Oh,
So that is very interesting to know for all of us. So someone came and started manufacturing and selling Airtel beer. Airtel, obviously he has to protect his brand. He went to the court. He said, "I am a telecommunication company. I am Airtel." Someone started manufacturing and selling beers. Now you ask me, telecommunication will fall under somewhere at 43, class 42, 43, and beers fall under somewhere class 29 under the Trademarks Act. So there are two different classes of goods, two separate goods. Consumer going to buy a SIM card or anything to do with Airtel will go to Airtel showroom. Who wants to buy a beer will go to a beer shop and wine shop, a bar or wherever the beer is sold, he'll go and buy. Therefore, a consumer is aware what is he buying. How can there be a misconception of product that I asked SIM card and he gave me beer? That cannot happen. So there is a clear distinction of goods. The goods are clearly distinguishable, but still Airtel went to the court and said that no, I use Airtel for the goods and services that are for telecommunication. Please stop this person. So court took a view in this judgment, very interesting, that as a brand Airtel has acquired a super status. It has become a super brand. If a brand becomes super brand, irrespective of the class, irrespective of the goods, irrespective of the services you are in, you get protected all over. Unfortunately, Supreme Court, while dealing with our own Karnataka's matter, in the matter of Nandini versus Nandini Deluxe, it held the other way. Very interesting, in Nandini's matter, Nandini Milk Parlor, that is Nandini KMF, Karnataka Milk Federation, Nandini Milk, a suit came to be filed by Nandini, that is KMF, against Nandini Deluxe Hotel. Both of them fall under the same class. Understand this? Both of them fall under the same class. Okay. Here at least Airtel was in a separate class. Airtel beer was in separate class. But here, Nandini also was in the same class. Nandini Deluxe, that is the milk, also falls under the same class, and the food also falls under the same class, that is hotel. Irrespective of that, what the court held is Nandini as a milk is known only in the state of Karnataka. It has not achieved a super status. Therefore, you cannot come and claim that Nandini itself has become synonymous with milk, and people going to the restaurant will get confused that KMF is running the restaurant. No, this concept cannot be adopted. So this variations are always there in a law. It's a fine difference. When does a brand achieve super status? When does a brand does not achieve a super status? All this depends upon the long and wide usage of the mark. So always we say, under the Trademarks Act, what we need to keep in mind is not only the prior usage, not only the registration, not only the adoption of the mark and usage of the mark, long and wide usage. Mark should also be used long and wide. Every possible places it should be exploited. Every possible places. The whole object behind that is to seek protection of the mark. The mark needs a maximum protection. The maximum protection comes only by way of maximum usage and exploitation. So I think we have time, another 10 minutes. I have one or two more judgments, and then I think I can take some questions if at all they are there. So Don versus Don, D-O-N, Don versus D-A-W-N, Don. Phonetic similarity. You can see here, there is something called phonetic similarity. Don, Don. What he has done is, cleverly, the defendant has adopted something called D-A-W-N, Don. For D-O-N, Don, oppositely, he has adopted something called D-A-W-N, Don. He may argue that Don is totally different, Don is totally different, but the court held phonetically when I tell what is Don, Don, both are same. The products are one and the same. The pronunciation is also one and the same. Phonetically, they sound similar. Therefore, even though they have different spelling and different meaning altogether, the idea of sounding the same. Therefore, this is something which you cannot, as a trademark application, make, but as a protection granted under the law. You cannot make an application for a competitor's mark, but when it has been used in competition, it can be protected. Don versus Don. And then one last judgment which I would like to cite here. Lay's versus Leo chips. Lay's chips versus Leo chips. This Lay's chips, what comes to our mind the moment we say Lay's chips? Yellow color packaging, blue color packaging, or red color packaging, and each packaging have their own association with the flavor under which they are sold. Someone, now what he does is, he copies the same yellow packaging, he copies the same font style, same pattern, and comes out with something called Leo chips. What does the court do? The court says that the whole idea of the packaging, though the word mark is different, but the packaging is same. Therefore, they injuncted the defendant from using or selling the chips with the same concept of packaging. So the combination. So trademark, what we need to understand here is that it doesn't have a single yardstick to say that if this is what it is, so this is how it can be protected. Trademarks are always protected with a combination of various factors. We need to keep in mind when we are seeking protection for the usage of a mark which is similar to that of the plaintiff or the claimant, that various factors are looked into by the court. Some are written, some are unwritten, some are through the judgment, some are without the judgments. So we have to have the clear idea of the combinations revolving around a mark. Of course, I try to give a fair idea of the combinations that are being looked into by the court when it comes to the seeking protection of the mark. So at this I conclude my talk on the subject. I will take any questions if there are any doubts are to be cleared. I will try to answer all of them, any of them. And I thank one and all for the patient hearing first.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. That was a very informative session. So before we move on to the Q&A session, I think we already have a question in the box. If I can read it out for you. Sir, what is the maximum punishment? So I think this was in context to the the punishment under the Trademarks Act. So what is the maximum punishment accused can be awarded? That is perhaps the question.
I would say here the trademarks law is not so proactive in terms of punishment. It is only for misrepresentation of unregistered mark having been shown as a registered mark. The punishment is granted under the Trademarks Act, whereas the punishment is actually granted under the IPC for misrepresentation. It is not under the Trademarks Act. That is the first concept we need to get cleared. One more thing I just want to add here is it is not related to trademarks, but one more thing I would want to relate here is under the Copyrights Act, we have an option for seeking punishment under the Copyrights Act itself, unlike your Trademarks Act. So we need to understand the difference that the law for copyright gives inherent provision for punishment, whereas the trademarks law do not give an inherent provision for punishment. All that the trademarks law does is suit for injunction, seizure, and damages. These are the benefits which we can make use of under the trademarks law. Now, when it comes to the punishment, again, the IPC also is not that clear about it, for the reason that there the punishment also, again, what kind of allegations you are making, it differs. So it cannot be single yardstick to say that this is what it is.
So what are the probable sections that could be leveled against the infringer or the accused
So
under the IPC? If you can just throw some light on that.
That's why I said no, there is no much of thing to do with IPC for punishment. It is only the infringement action which we need to take.
Right.
Seizure of goods should happen through the civil suit itself. And destruction of the goods also should happen through the civil suit itself. It is only under the Copyright Act the punishment is granted, not under the Trademarks law.
Trademarks. All right. So the provisions of CRPC also is not applicable. Then.
Not
This
applicable.
Provisions of Civil Procedure Code is
Code
applicable.
only is applicable. So maximum what we can do is we can seize the goods, get them destroyed through this order of civil court itself.
Civil Code.
And we can seek damages.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Praveen, request you to unmute the viewers. So let's have online questions.
Unmuted, sir.
Unmuted. All right. Yes. Yes, sir. Mr. Gupta.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Sanjay.
Good evening.
Very eloquent information you have given. I'm happy to note one Mr. Jain from Meerut is also watching your talk.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Okay.
Very grateful.
Wonderful. Then I have got one question. There are two brothers carrying on the same trade. One is in Bangalore South, the other is Bangalore North. Elder brother and younger brother, and the same father's name. They have put the father's name. From X silks and sarees. He is also using the same father's name, X and silks and sarees. Now the litigation, I think they must start. But both of them have not registered. Now the litigation started. Then what is the advice you are going to give it to me?
So the one who started first gets protection.
No, see, same time they have divided the business. They come, one started here, one continued there.
So there is one other concept. There is one other concept which I did not touch because it is little confusing. I did not want to touch. There is also one other concept under the law, trademarks law, which says honest concurrent user. There can be two persons using the same mark as an honest concurrent user, even at two different places. Here it is a family. Here it is a family using it at a one single place in the same town. With a limited radius of distance. Whereas it can also happen that someone sitting in Canada is adopted one mark, which was also adopted at the same time by someone in Bangalore. Both of them didn't knew each other. Both of them never had the intention of copying each other's brand, but both of them adopted a similar name and the same name. So they can go to the court or they can seek a protection of honest concurrent user if there is a claim by another person.
Thank you.
Mr. BD Jain, yes.
From Meerut.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I'm,
sir.
I'm an advocate since 1956.
Oh,
Wonderful, sir.
In
Great.
1960,
Wonderful.
I worked about Trade and Mercantile Act in the name of commercial advisors. And in many cases, in stationery, ever got arrested and stocks destroyed and checked. One question is there. Frigidaire. There are many fridge, many brand, but the original brand of fridge was Frigidaire. And then Frigidaire became a common noun. Dalda, hydrogenated oils in northern India were so popular that whether any brand, but they say Dalda. They say Dalda. But there was Kotojam, there was Rath, there was Panhat, so many. So
just
how
like Xerox.
is the
Just like
distinction?
Xerox.
It is the distinction how we are able to prove.
Now we call this as a mark becoming synonymous. When we take example of Xerox, right? Xerox is not the printout of what we get is a photocopy of original. What we call in the usual course is Xerox. Xerox is the one who actually found the photocopier machine. So
Right.
mark becomes synonymous. Mark becomes synonymous with the usage.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Mr. Jain, sir, we are very happy to have you this evening from Meerut.
I'm a GST lawyer for 60 years.
I'm very grateful to you, sir, that I happened to meet you through this.
My son is also in profession,
Yeah.
Manu Rishi, for 32 years. We are corporate lawyers in GST.
Oh, fantastic to know, sir.
Isar Oil, we are dealing. Thank you. DCM,
Thank you, sir.
DCM Shriram, we are all looking after. Thank you very much.
Thank
Hello.
you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hello. This is Anil, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir.
This is Anil.
Yes,
I have
Mr.
one
Anil.
question. Yeah, I have one question regarding the sir Sanjay sir told that it should be continuous usage of 5 long years. Later it will be.
Okay. Please complete your question, then I'll answer.
Yeah. You told that there should be continuous usage of for 5 long years. Later
Okay.
it will be cancelled. Some petition will be filed. Who will file that petition, sir, to cancellation of that trademark?
Concept clear. I'll make the concept clear.
Competitor.
This is.
Any mark, if it is applied and registered, supposing, it should be always be in use. Always it should be in use. Okay. Then there could also be a possibility that a mark may not be able to be used for a period of time. So the trademark registry has given, the Trademarks Act gives the option that if a mark is not used for 5 long years continuously, if a mark is not used for 5 long years,
Okay.
then whomever agreed because of the application, because of the mark being there in the register for having registered, if I am aggrieved by it, I can seek cancellation of it because I want to adopt it. Someone is blocking it, not allowing me to use, I can go and seek cancellation of it. So someone who is aggrieved can go, right? And
Okay,
who-
sir. Okay. Fine. Okay. Thank you.
If permitted, I have got a question.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Sir, unlike Bangalore, see in Bangalore, by virtue of City Civil Courts Act, all the courts in Bangalore are of the designation of district judge. Whereas in rural, the district judges are separate, unique, and they don't get original civil jurisdiction. How to file a corporate violation suit in the rural areas? Whether we have to go to the senior civil judge court or still we have to persist with district judge.
Senior civil judges of the district cadres are there, right?
No, sir. District judge is senior civil judge is one rank below the district court, but
No.
they have the original civil jurisdiction, and their civil jurisdiction is unlimited.
Original civil jurisdiction is where the suit goes, right? That is equivalent to district judge. That is equivalent to the district judge. Okay, let us put it the other way. Now, you have your commercial courts.
No, sir. We have to depend on Bangalore City commercial courts. We don't have commercial courts also.
Then for you, the city civil district court will be the Bangalore City.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Can we have the next question, please?
Hello, this is Sridhar. I just had a comment to offer on.
Hello, yes, sir.
Can I go ahead?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Sridhar. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I just had a comment to offer so that Sanjay sir can comment on.
Sanjay.
Yeah.
So there was a
Hello.
comment from Mr.
Sir.
Gupta about this whole concept of two people actually having the same name and then using it in different parts of the city. It may have happened that two branches were opened at the same time by the father, and the business has not been settled. I just want to bring in an example. I believe that some time ago there was a clash within the Maya family and they settled. So there was the MTR restaurant and there was the MTR foods business. They're all from the same family. So I believe that that could be an action. So I think the concept that you introduced of honest concurrent user, whether from the same family or different families, whether in the same city or different cities, is applicable. But they will definitely not be able to get an action of either passing off when it is unregistered or infringement when it is registered, right? But I think the settlement of this needs to be elsewhere. They will need to settle it. Is my opinion correct?
I'll give a very classic example of this. Very, very classic example. All of us are aware of it. It is actually associated with us for everyday walks of our life. Reliance. Simple example of Reliance. Mukesh Ambani, Anil Ambani, both of them got divided. Both of them are using the same mark, Reliance, right? And how are they using it? So there is a possibility under the Trademarks Act that you can define your boundaries, you can define your businesses, you can define your roles and responsibilities, you can get your marks assigned. If there is a consensus to use a mark in any fashion you would want, it is at the discretion of the proprietors of the mark that how and which fashion they would want to share and use the mark amongst themselves. But when it comes to a litigation, and if there is a claim over the mark amongst the two honest concurrent user, then we can take the shelter of honest concurrent user of the mark. Only if there is a situation of litigation, otherwise not.
There can be geographical reason.
Also,
Family make a mutual agreement.
Exactly.
Trademark law is very interesting. It is nothing but common sense. Nothing but common sense. If one has a strict common sense, he may win, the other may lose.
The trademark renewal is required. Renewal is required.
Every 10 years, a trademark registered.
Is it renewal is required for the trademark?
Every 10 years once. Every 10 years once.
Sir, after
10 years. 10 years once, sir. 10 years.
Any renewal required?
10 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you. Do we have any more questions?
I'm audible. Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Very spoken, very fine.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Sanjay, sir.
Is there any
Hello,
disturbance
may I ask
with the question?
Hello?
Mr. Shazad, I couldn't hear you.
Yes, very good evening, Sanjay, sir, and very good evening to all eminent advocates and everybody in the legal fraternity. My name is Advocate Mohammed Shahzad. I'm from Kerala. So my question is this, as per section 145 of the Trademarks Act, there are 3 categories of people who can practice as trademark agents. Sir, but how practically can advocates do it, sir? Can you explain can you elucidate a bit about that section?
Registration as well as the litigation, of course, we are entitled to do as a practicing advocate.
Yes.
Even to make an application, the advocates are permitted to do so. In addition to that is 145.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions before
Yes,
we
one
wind up
thing.
the session?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask: if unfortunately the company is already closed and the name itself gone along with the company, whether that
Ma'am, there was a cut.
it can be used again by somebody else, not the same family members or same parties.
How long is that the company has been closed?
No. It is just an example I'm asking you. I don't. No, if it is 20 years company, okay.
Okay.
Whether the same company name can be used by somebody else for the same purpose or other purpose.
You can still try to make an application. Okay.
Yeah.
As I said, there will be an application raised with the registry. Okay.
Okay.
During the course of hearing, you can produce the evidences to show that the company doesn't exist anymore, the business has been wound up, and the mark is not in use.
Okay, if the same product is the same, it can be applied. If the product is different, whether it is to be used, application is to be filed.
See, for any purpose, the application has to be filed.
Okay.
Maybe the product or not, the goods and services are same or not. If there is a conflicting mark and the registration of it is valid and existing in the register of the trademark,
Okay.
then when an application has been made, there would be certainly an objection raised. Okay.
Okay.
Objection has been raised, you will have to provide sufficient evidences to show that the company ceased to exist and they've stopped the carry on business. And then if it falls within the parameters of law to say that you have successfully able to evidence, substantiate with the evidence to show
Yes.
that mark has been, not been put to use for longer period of time, or it has been completely given up.
Okay.
Probably the subsequent registration is also granted.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Vikram, can I ask you the question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, again, Satyanarayana Gupta here. What are the procedures to buy the trademark, sir?
Sir, it can be by way of an assignment.
Is it by way of a registered document?
It is not a registered document per se. It is a document on a stamped paper. It needs to be submitted with the trademarks registry.
It should be registered with the trademark registry.
Okay. How we have a sub-registrar's office, it's just like that. We have a trademarks office where it has to be provided to change the name.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Sanjay, our engineer, Mr. Praveen Kamath has a question. So the last question for the day. Yes, Praveen.
Hello, sir. Sir, in follow-up, one question with Gupta, sir. So that can be given with jurisdiction-wise as well?
Sorry, I missed the break.
A follow-up question
Yeah.
with Gupta, sir, regarding his question. So can this assignment be particularly for the jurisdiction, say only for Karnataka region? This trademark is given.
What can happen is a mark can be dissected through geographical origins also. I can say that Southern India I will use it, Northern India you use it. I will say I will use only for the Karnataka, you use it for Andhra Pradesh.
Got it.
We can.
Sir, I have one more question. Sir, as a customer or consumer, when I see Pepsi and Pepusi, say, if you see this thing, mineral water, there are a lot of similar products with similar color combination, all these things. As a consumer, can I file a case against them is the question. Nothing. Misrepresentation or something like that? Nothing. Only the registered user have to.
Be careful in buying those goods, that's all.
No, because I am cheated with the color combination. That's my...
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware. Yes. Buyer beware.
One more question, Trivikram.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sanjay, one question. See, a magazine which was defunct since a reputed magazine which was defunct since many decades. And it's in its age, it was a very familiar and widely circulated and read. Suppose I don't know whether it is closed or not, but publication is stopped for many reasons. It was not coming out for the decades. Now, suppose a person want to use that name for his magazine or the vernacular or the another magazine for that, whether I can go for a trademark and seek for that number, name.
One is, yes, you can. But before doing that, what we can do is, we can find out from the relevant class of the trademark registry's website. It is all online now. We have the trademark registry website, ipindia.nic.in, ipindia.nic.in. That's the website.
Okay.
We can log into this website. We can give the name of the mark and the class under which the mark falls in, to know which class the particular goods come or the services come, in the same website there is an option for knowing the class also. You just click the class, give the name of the product, it will list under which class the goods fall, and then we can find out from there that whether this mark is still there on the registers, trademarks registry register as a registered proprietor in the particular person's name or not.
Okay.
And if we get to know the validity of that mark, then next step of filing or not filing can be decided.
Okay, thank you.
If he still continues to own it, then probably we will have to rethink about it, whether he wants to claim right or not. All that can be explored. But when a letter gets,
Whether I should go for litigation for that, or should I approach the registry?
if you have sufficient evidences to show that they are not using it, you can seek cancellation of the mark. Make an application and seek cancellation. Make an application that I want to use, therefore cancel this mark.
Okay, thank you.
And probably if they are not using, they will give it up and it will automatically get cancelled. That's all. Maybe what happens is I register, then I do not pursue. I need not necessarily go and cancel. So anyone who wants to cancel, they can get it cancelled also. That's not an issue.
Suppose if he is a registered owner not using for many decades, as I told, whether I need to give any compensation or the goodwill
Not
like that?
Not required. Here it is not mandatory under the law that you have to give.
Okay.
It is not. One more thing is registration is valid only for 10 years.
Okay. Okay.
So if he has not used it for more than a decade, means it's already expired.
That's
If he is not renewed it, it is open for you to get it registered for your name.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Sanjay, on my personal behalf and on behalf of Advocates Association Bangalore, I thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for a patient hearing. Thanks a lot, Vikram sir, for giving this opportunity and being with us for throughout. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. The consent, mutual consent, I'll be logging off the session now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.